Hi and welcome back to our Cyber Siege tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to discuss the main office setup. As you can see here, this is our scenario tab, a form, for startup office. Here you can modify the organization name, the scenario title, the start dates. You can choose whatever day of the month you want to start with, time that you want to start with. You can change your site name, how much productivity is going to get done. You can also change your startup money. Here, in this section here is the office type. You can change the different styles of the office that you want, including offsites. If you want to have an offsite or not, you can modify it by clicking on the drop-down menu. Let's take a look at this while we are here. Right now, the office type is MS3A. As you can see in the game, this is what an MS3 looks like. Very simple, 4 office, 1 main lobby area. Close this, change it to a large, and then build and run so you can see what that looks like. As you can see, this is a larger office. This is a small. And this is MS3B. Note that if you have Cyber Siege running in the background, regardless if it's through build and run, if you try to build and run again, it will not work. So you have to actually close out of the program before you build and run. But this is MS3B. Let's take a look at the offsites now. This one is a www worksite or offsite. Let's change that to a small office. Change this one back to MS3A. Click here to go to the offsite. You can see it changed it to a small office instead of what we saw in the previous example. You can change it to home. You see very simple house looking office room. And then there is, we've already seen the www. Now it's going to be this. You can see it's just slightly off from the main building itself. You can play between there, you can create multiple offsites. The initial briefing is basically what you see, so I'm just going to put what it is so that way you can see where it shows up in the actual scenario. Build and run. You can see this is where the initial briefing would go. And then when you go to oops, sometimes that happens if you go too fast. Let's try that again. Build and run. Initial briefing. The game. When you click on game, you can see the full briefing there. Alright. And Sorry for going back and forth, but when you clicked on quit, you can actually see where the quit briefing would have gone. As you can see, this is the quit text. Okay, so that is basically how you would set up the scenario screen, the description, and basically how you want your office laid out. Let's go to Workspace. You can see here in the Reusable Set library, go to Workspace, click on Workspace Start Office. Here is where you can modify what type of furniture you want in the room and what type of users is in there. You hit refresh, you can see what's already set up. If there were computers, it would show up under computers. If there were users, like here, you can see Joe and Tina. The furnishing, you can see here, you have ISA. The I stands for empty room. Don't know how they got I out of that. S would stand for the server room. A is the standard office. And then C would be a checkpoint for security purposes. You can actually add an additional letter after the A to dictate what type of furnishing you want in the office. If you leave it blank, the furnishing will be left at random. One thing that this would be of concern is if you are changing what kind of office you're starting with. If you were at MS3B, you would have to make sure that everything that you use is within the X and Y coordinate. As you can see here, 3A and offsites into the zone. If you go to the game, and hit G, you can see the coordinates. So if you're trying to put a server room at 2750 or 3050, say, you would go back to your workspace, find something very similar to. If there is not, you can always add an index. 17, 30, 50. The direction you want the room to point, east, west, south, north, you can play around with that. Let's put a server there. You can click add. Let's close out of this so we can build and run. You see we added another server rack at 3050. No, there was already one there. With components, you have to make sure that your zoning for your main would fit within it. So if your upper X and upper Y and lower X, lower Y, if your zone is not within those parameters, you would not be able to add components of that sort. So you have to make sure that you adjust these accordingly. And that is the very gist of creating an office and setting everything up. It is best for you to, once you add a new component or a new desk of any sorts, that you build and run, so you can see if it works, if it's actually where you want it, the direction you want to face it. Just kind of play around with it a little bit,